Shut up and sit down.
Hello, my friend. You are listening to the Dance Studio Scaled podcast, the number one place for innovative marketing, retention strategies, and business growth ideas made just for dance studio owners. Now, this isn't your average business podcast. We're here to shake things up, simplify the hustle, and focus on real, actionable insights. I'm your host, Jen Dalton, and after 30 years of running studios, coaching owners, and scaling businesses, I know one thing's for sure. There's no one size fits all in this industry. You've got the passion and I've got the tools to help you take it to the next level. So hit that subscribe button, grab a coffee, and let's scale your studio together. Like many of the episodes that I bring to you each week, this topic today is off the back of a conversation that I had with an incredible studio owner the other day. And it's all about that competing priorities. So I know so many of you struggle with it because I have the conversations. And so I'm sure there are more out there. And that's why I thought, let's just cover that today. Let's put some actions and steps in place to sort this out. Because if you know that feeling where you're spinning all those plates and just wondering when one's going to crash, trust me, you're not alone. But the good news is it doesn't have to be like that. And in fact, in 2025, I want to challenge you to do less, but just do it better. So today I'm going to walk you through why this mindset shift is so important and how it can help you tackle the idea of those competing priorities, and then the practical steps that you can take to simplify while still moving your studio forward. So if that resonates with you, let's get into it. All right, the problem is there's too many priorities and not enough focus. So it's pretty obvious, you know this, there's only so much time and energy in a day that you have. Yet we are just trying to do everything. And then we wonder why we feel so exhausted and maybe like we feel like we're not making progress. But here's the thing, when you try to do everything, nothing gets your full attention. You're spread too thin and the quality of what you are delivering. Now, whether this is in your studio, this is your personal life or your family life, or even for yourself, this is when it suffers. Now, I have been there. So I'm literally speaking as someone who has suffered this for many, many years. And I remember the times when I felt like I had to say yes to everything because I thought it would grow my studio. And so an example of this was with my adults classes. Now, every couple of years, the adults would come to me, the parents would come to me and say, we really want to do classes. Can you run classes? And years ago, I'd be like, yep, okay, as long as there's, a few of you, I'm more than happy to run the classes. And, they would start really popular and there would be lots of people there. And, even we did do a couple of years for a while where numbers were really good. But then all of a sudden things were busy, things were coming up and, they couldn't get to class because, partners didn't arrive home in time to look after the children, or meetings came up, or they were stuck at work. But then I remember this moment, and it was the middle of winter and it was freezing in the studio. I had my babies were babies at home, and it was late. I wanted to see them. And I had two adults turn up. And then I thought to myself, what am I doing? Like, why do I keep saying yes to this? Because it's not helping. Like, they don't want to be there with just the two of them. They're cold as well. I didn't want to be there. And so that was just a really good memory. Every year I would just be like, no. Every time they would ask me, I'd say, no, I don't run adult classes. Now, I know there are studios that run super successful adult classes and it works fantastic for them. Good for them. And I actually would then just say, go and try this studio. They run adult classes. But I had to learn to say no because every time I would say yes when I didn't want to, it just made me feel overwhelmed and burnt out. And I am sure that you can relate to that in some way. So if you're feeling like that, if feeling like you've got too much on your plate, it is time to take a step back and look at what really matters. So let me tell you something. I did learn it the hard way. Success doesn't come from doing more. It just comes from doing the right things really well. And when you focus your time and energy on fewer priorities, that's when you deliver the higher quality of work. It's when you feel more in control of your schedule. And it's when you actually enjoy what you're doing instead of rushing through it. So think about it like this as an example. So say, as well as everything else that you're doing within the business, you're also teaching 15 classes a week. But because there's so many things happening, you're only able to give 60% of your energy and time and thought and planning to each of those. So are your students really getting the best of you? Wouldn't it be better to teach 10 classes and give 100%? So do you see what I'm saying? And then the same applies with the running of your studio. You don't have to be everything to everyone. You just need to do the things that matter most and do those really well. Okay, so how do we go about this? Let's talk through them. The first thing is to really figure out what actually matters. Now, not everything's urgent and not everything deserves your attention. And another good way to look at this or question this is what needs to be done versus what you want to do, because sometimes there's a bit of a blurred line there. So the questions that you can ask yourself, and I actually still go through this exercise myself quite regularly, actually. So ask yourself, first thing, what's going to have the biggest impact on your studio this year? The next one is what aligns with your values and long-term goals. And then what's draining your time and energy without giving much back. So there's some pretty harsh truths there if you're answering these honestly. What is it that's going to have the biggest impact? What aligns with your values and your goals, and what's draining your time and energy? So for example, if growing enrollments is your priority, you need to focus your energy there. And this might mean doubling down on marketing or making personal connections with families. Everything else, like spending hours tweaking your Instagram aesthetic or trying to make your emails look pretty, that stuff needs to take a seat back. Clarity really is the key. So when you know what your top priorities are, it's then easier to say no to the other things that don't align. It may be that you are constantly offering new offers, like putting in new programs. We're now doing this and we're now doing that and we're now doing this. And so you're spreading yourself thin across so many different offers instead of, and maybe attendance is sitting at 60, 70% in each of those classes. Why don't you get rid of the ones that are working less for you as a business, bringing in less desire, and focus in on what's working, double down on that, and build the numbers in that one program as opposed to trying to spread yourself thin. Okay, hopefully that's resonated with some of you. Now, the next thing is to really start thinking simple, simplify your systems. Once you know your priorities, it's just about simplifying how you can handle them. It's the way of working smarter, not harder, which I am sure you have heard, and it can be done. I think we are bombarded now with so many, do it this way, here's the best way to do it, take on this offer, take on this program, this is going to help you. And surely, I'm sure that each of them on their own are fantastic and would. But sometimes we all, including myself, have that feeling of FOMO. It's like, oh, I've got to get that. Oh, I think that will help me a lot. Sometimes there's just so much that we actually stop doing it. So let's focus in on simplifying. So here's a few ideas of simplifying within your studio. Automating those repetitive tasks. So the ability for doing this is getting a lot easier for studio owners. Things like the automated email system and scheduling apps and enrollment platforms that we now have are definitely saving us time. I think probably a big challenge for a lot of you is finding the time to actually make it work in the best way for you. So are you using it to its full capacity? But if you have them, at least that's a start to be able to take away some of that time of you doing the same thing over and over again. The next idea is delegating. So if there is something that you don't have to do yourself, or you have the ability to ask someone to delegate to someone else, whether it's admin, whether it's social media, whether it's cleaning the studio. If you can delegate that to someone else, good. Also, if you have the AI Dance Business Assistant team, use it. Utilize each of those GPTs to be able to do tasks for you that you would normally take you double the time. So if you don't have a person you can physically hand things off or delegate, utilize AI. That's what it was created for. I created it so it would know exactly what you as a studio owner need for a team that you don't have to then pay. And it's going to save time because they're educated to answer the way that you would be answering, do the task that you need it to do in your words, exactly the way you would. And then the last thing is batching your work. So this is a concept that I've been doing over the last couple of years, and it really has changed my life, like changed my calendar and my scheduling. Some people it doesn't work for, which I totally get and respect, but for me it has worked, and I actually love talking about it and talking about how it has improved the way I do things. But the idea behind it is just grouping those similar tasks together so that you're not jumping in between different things all day. And I guess this was my problem, because I would start one thing and then I'd change to something else, and then I'd try to come back to it, and then I'd pick up something else. And, especially when I'd be working from home, and then I'd go and put the washing on, and then I'd put the slow cooker on, and then I'd try and jump back and to do other tasks. It just didn't work for my brain. I just was never able to simply sit down and get tasks completed because I was jumping all over the place. So, for example, you could set aside a day a week just to focus on the marketing for the month ahead. Or you could another day, maybe a day of the week, just to focus on the admin tasks, the not the reactive admin tasks, but the proactive stuff. So you don't have to be doing it at the time that needs to be done. You can prep it in advance. Or maybe it's like teaching prep. Like if you're choreographing, if you're looking for music, block out a time, whether it's in the week or whether it's in the month. So a side note, I'm loving working in monthly batches at the moment, like batching over the month. It could be that for your teaching prep. Now, streamlining your systems, it simply frees up your time and the mental space so you can then focus on what matters most. And this is what we have to really embrace as we keep moving forward. The next one is just learning to say no. Like I mentioned earlier, it's really a game changer, and it also can be the hardest for a lot of people. But learning to say no is about protecting your time and energy so you can give your best to the things that truly matter. And here's the thing, every time you say yes to something, you're actually saying no to something else. So before you agree to anything new, here are 3 questions to ask yourself. Does this align with my priorities? Is this going to help me reach my goals, or is it a distraction? And finally, am I saying yes out of guilt, obligation, or fear of missing out? There's, again, some pretty harsh truths there. Let me read through those again. So every time you say yes to something, you're saying no to something else. So these are the questions. Does this align with my priorities? Is this going to help me reach my goals, or is it just a distraction? And am I saying yes out of guilt, obligation, or fear of missing out? Honestly, it truly is okay to set boundaries. And in fact, it's necessary if you want to do less, but do it better. And I think, honestly, people actually have a greater respect for those who do set boundaries. You might piss them off in the short term, or it might be, they might have a bit of a tantrum because they're not getting what they want. But I think ultimately the people that matter, the people who are long-term customers in your business, they respect that, because ultimately that's what they should be doing in their life as well. So just let that sit with you for a bit if you do have trouble saying no to things. And I've seen many studio owners implement this mindset and see incredible results. One of the studio owners I worked with was just spending like hours every week trying to manage social media, running events, teaching the classes, doing the admin. She was so exhausted and really felt like she wasn't doing anything well. And we literally just sat down and looked at her priorities, and her main goal was to grow her studio enrollments. That was what it really boiled down to. So we streamline the admin and with automation and using the AI abilities that we have to manage your social media and create that. And then she started focusing her time on the connecting of the families and the following up after calls and making sure that onboarding process was really schmick so that she could then build her numbers. And then the results, her studio numbers grew. And then as a result of that, her stress decreased and she had then more time for herself and for her family. So again, it's not about doing more, it's just about doing what you're doing better. All right, let me leave you with this. The quality of what you will do will always outweigh the quantity. So you don't need to be everywhere or do everything to run a successful business. You just need to focus on the right things and give them your best. So as you look forward to 2025, I want you to ask yourself this: where can I simplify? What can I let go of? And how can I focus on doing less but doing it better? Now, these are the key points that we go through in the mastermind at the start of every year. Then we do it again in July when we're doing in June, when we're doing our 12-month plan from June, because we start planning for the new year in June. These are the 3 questions I start with each of them. Where can I simplify? What can I let go of? And how can I focus on doing less but doing it better? And that is essentially how we scale. And you know that that's what I'm all about. How can we scale in the best way possible? Now, this mindset shift isn't just good for your studio. It's exceptional for your mental health. It's exceptional for your relationships and your overall happiness. And I don't need to remind you, life is short. So we have to enjoy the process of getting there, enjoy the steps. And, these are the little things that are going to make it better for you every day. Okay, well, thank you for tuning in today. I hope that this episode has resonated with you. If it has, I would love to hear how you're planning to simplify and refocus this year. Please send me a DM on Instagram, which is _JenDalton_, or even if share this episode with someone who you think may need a little bit of inspiration or a little bit of motivation as we step into the new year. But remember, you don't have to do it all. Do less, do it better, and watch how your studio grows and your life ultimately transforms. All right, until next week, take care, stay focused, you have got this. Thanks for tuning in to the Dance Studio Scaled podcast. Now, if you enjoyed this episode, be sure to hit subscribe, leave a review, and share it with other studio owners who would love it too. And let's keep the conversation going. Follow me on Instagram at Jen Dalton for more tips, insights, and behind-the-scenes moments to help you simplify and scale your studio. Until next time, keep dreaming big and taking action. I'll see you back here soon.